In an instant, my idyllic life was ripped apart. Arriving home early, I found Dickie's car brazenly parked in front. Slipping inside, I heard the unmistakable sound of Maria's laughter mixed with his. Recording their sordid plans, my world crumbled. When they spotted me, Dickie charged, the glint of a knife in his hand. We fought fiercely, and I barely escaped with my life and the incriminating recording. Fleeing into the night, I knew I was entering a new reality filled with peril. My pursuit of justice would take me through a maze of betrayal and deceit, each moment a battle to reclaim my life and protect those I loved. It was a beautiful spring day, April 25th. My name is Bob Watson, and I am a tax accountant in Omaha, Nebraska. This year, tax season was longer because of the pandemic. Most of my clients turned in their tax forms last week. They all owed a little extra money. Even with the new deadline, we still have to pay interest on what we owe. I knew I had to file the taxes. My office was nice enough. I worked on the 3rd floor of the building. I had a wall full of windows, but they faced north. There wasn't much sunlight, and I only saw another office building across the street. Tax accountants like me spend the late winter and early spring staring at our computers, filling out tax forms. It didn't matter if my office had a great view. I would still be focused on numbers. At lunchtime, I went outside for some fresh air, and the day was so nice that I decided to take a break. My wife, Maria, and I lived in a lovely home by the Platte River, just a few miles before it flows into the Missouri River. The day was too nice, and I just had to watch the water flow by. As I got closer to home, I saw a BMW parked in the driveway. The license plate said, Big Rich. I knew that belonged to Richard Newberg III, or Dickie as many called him. He was visiting Maria. I drove past the house, parked around the corner, and walked home. Dickie was known for being the not-so-great son of Dick Jr. People said he got the name Big Rich because of his money, but he liked to think it meant more. His ego was huge. If you could buy him for what he was worth and sell him for what he thought, you'd be set for life. Dickie was well known, mostly because his father, Richard Jr., was one of the richest men in Omaha, maybe even in the country. Jr. made his money in commercial real estate. He tried hard to help Dickie succeed, but nothing worked. The old man was smart and hard-working, while Dickie just got by. Our house had a big porch that wrapped around 2 sides. You could sit there and see the river no matter where the sun was shining. I quietly walked onto the porch and moved towards the front of the house. I could hear Maria and Dickie talking from inside. All the windows were open, and I was only a few feet away on the porch. They were side by the windows. I took out my phone and turned on the recording app. In my job, it's important to remember details, but I always review them to make sure they're correct. That's why I often use my audio app. Maria said, "It's never going to be easy. When he comes home, tell him you're too bored and you're leaving." Dickie replied, "Can't you be here with me? I really care about him. I don't want to see him sad. It would be better if you told him we love each other." Maria answered, "You know I care about you, but think about it. You have no place for him except in the trash. You've moved on with your life, and my dad told me that if I get involved with another married woman, he'll make sure I regret it." She laughed like a young girl. Dickie said, "You don't really believe he would hurt you, do you?" "Don't be foolish. The old man is tough. He might not hurt me directly, but he could take away all my money or make me work hard again. Besides, you should pretend to be poor so you can take everything from him." "Oh, Dickie, I wouldn't do that. I already feel terrible about leaving him. You have plenty of money. We can leave him with his cash, just not his pride." "No way. I want it all. If you want me, you have to show me that you can make him hate you. Then I won't worry about you changing your mind when your kids start crying and want daddy." We have 2 children, Claire, who is 7, and Bobby, who is 18 months old. "You're consistent. I'll give you that. When he arrives, I'll give him a treat." They continued chatting, and I realized that tears were running down my face. I had to hold back my sobs as I listened to the woman I loved talk about how she might betray me. It went quiet, and I guessed they moved on to something else. I decided it was time to leave and called my friend Ed Dover. I slipped away without being noticed. Ed and his wife Sally ran a family law firm, and they were doing well. Their friends jokingly called them Ben and Nancy. I once asked Sally why. She answered, "It's a clever name for a family law firm. Bend over and enjoy it." Ed and I helped clients who needed both legal and financial advice. At this time of year, it wasn't unusual for someone to forget an important detail and need help fast. I called Ed and quickly told him I was overwhelmed and needed their assistance. "Bob, here's the plan. I'm busy now, but Sally can come to your house. She will meet you there and I'll call Maria," he said. "If she answers the phone, I'll tell her the big account has a serious issue and you're deep in it. You can call her tomorrow and let her know when you're back home." I felt thankful to have such good friends. They did not overlook the little things. They took care of me when I was at their place. Sally gave me a warm hug when I arrived. She could see I was upset. I said one word, Mary, and then I burst into tears. She stared at me. "Illness." She paused. I didn't say anything. "Betrayal," I managed to say through my tears. "What a terrible person. Ed will be here in less than an hour. Let's see if we can have 2 big martinis before he arrives." No business until then. Mixing martinis with betrayal is not my thing. So we did. She's great at talking. Sally didn't pull me out of my sadness. But thanks to her charm, bright smile, and some gin, I stopped crying when Ed walked in. "Hey, you two, how's it going?" he asked. That awful person betrayed him. What a horrible person. I felt a bit better. I took out my phone and pressed play on the recording. When it finished, I said, "I have 2 ideas. First, we can use this in court and then take it to his dad. Let's tackle this today." Ed and Sally exchanged a look. It felt like they were speaking without words. She nodded and turned to me. "Bob, you're new to this. Things work different here, especially in a case like this. If you want to win, you can't do things the simple way. Ed, tell him about showing the tape to his dad. You know, Dick Jr. a little, right? Isn't he the boss of your firm?" Ed replied, "Yes, but I don't handle the rent checks, and he doesn't either. Others handle that. Junior, as he likes to be called, got a lot of money but learned to waste it quickly. He doesn't care much about getting richer. He is a tough guy and has a messy relationship with his son, but Dickie is his soft spot. He spent a lot of money getting him out of trouble. For a bit, he made Dickie work, but it seems Dickie is even more skilled at losing money than his dad is at making it. Junior couldn't keep him working, so he just spoiled him. It didn't cost him much compared to the bad ideas his son had. Oh, come on, Ed, forget the family history. Just tell him if he can take the tape to Junior." "No way," Ed said. "Junior will be furious at Dickie, but will destroy you for pointing it out. You heard it. Dickie wants Marie to have all your money. They will spend it quickly, and when Junior needs to refill Dickie's supply, he won't help Marie again." Dickie is the kind of guy who attracts some women. He supposedly has good looks and charm, which helps him with married women. He uses them up and goes broke, then asks Junior for cash and moves on. Junior will help his son. Marie will end up with nothing, no place to live, and might need to run far away to escape Junior's anger. In a father's eyes, it won't be his son's fault for messing up, but your ex-wife's fault. You're lucky in that way. This is not going to end well for her. Right now, we need to find a way to get through this for you and your kids." When I heard this, I felt cold inside. I thought it was just a saying. Then I realized this could be worse than I imagined, and it hadn't even started yet. What if I sneak into the house tomorrow, take the kids, and run away? Sally smiled. "That's a good idea if you can really disappear without a trace. Otherwise, it's a bad idea." "I can get fake IDs," Ed said. "But Junior will find out who made them in no time. There is nothing you can do that Junior won't figure out. Be honest with yourself. The only way to stay safe is to make him agree not to come after you. That's often tough to get. Our main goal is to lessen the pain and help you come out all right." Sally saw the worry on my face and said, "That's enough for today. Give me your phone back tomorrow. Go buy a new one that's the same if you can. We will keep this phone to have the original recording. Junior won't be able to take it from you. Your only task is to go home tomorrow and act surprised when you hear we need to talk." We had a late dinner. I was ready for bed and we slept early. I didn't sleep well. I felt like I was waiting for a big blow. All day I felt nervous, like a cat in a room full of rocking chairs. At work, I jumped at everything. A few people asked if I was okay. It was hard to answer. I was fine for the moment, but didn't want to say my world was about to fall apart. I drove home, parked in the garage, took a deep breath, and then walked into the house as I usually did. I announced, "Honey, I'm home." A voice from the dining room replied, "Here." I sighed softly. This was my last chance to admit I knew something was wrong, and I walked into the dining room. "This is unusual. What's wrong? Sit down. We need to talk," they said. My heart raced, realizing this was it. They didn't say hello or even call me by name. Feelings started to rise. I decided to sit and stay quiet. "Bob, as you know very well, things have not been okay between us for a long time. I decided to go for a divorce." Her words were cold and her face was calm. She had practiced what to say. I took out my new phone, pressed record, and put it on the table next to me. "I'm not sure I understand. Why are you doing this? What's wrong?" I asked. "Why are you recording me? This isn't your phone," she snapped. "What are you doing?" "You rarely curse. You've never called me names before," I pointed out. "This is what we've come to. You lie and make me look bad," she said. "There's no proof of our fights or of you humiliating me while I just smiled through it. Now you're recording, making me look like the bad guy. Turn it off or we won't talk." "I won't turn it off," I replied. "Then leave. This is my house too. We need to talk. You asked me to sit down and talk. Turn off your recorder and listen or leave," she insisted. "Those are your options? I choose to stay and listen." She stood up and walked away. I sat there, shocked. What kind of person was this? She showed no warmth, only cold looks and demands. It scared me how ready she was to end this. I fell into thought. A tear rolled down my cheek and I wiped it away. She came back to her chair. "Isn't this nice?" she asked, sitting down. "What's nice about this?" "I'm crying over what you've done. You're pretending to care," I said. "Talk to me, please. I don't get it. You come home and spring divorce on me and now I have tears? What happened? Why can't we talk? The kids and I feel unsafe when you act like this, and now you're recording everything? I won't accept it." I just stared, stunned. How could she plan her words so well? Now she was using my recording against me, making me want to stop. I knew my kids would be even harsher on me than Marie if I did. So I kept the recorder on. We looked at each other. I heard sirens, and moments later, 2 officers walked into the dining room with their stun guns ready. "Sir, please calm down," one said. "I'm just sitting here," I said. "What should I do to appear calmer?" "Don't resist. Stand up and put your hands behind your back," he ordered. I realized arguing would get me nowhere. I stood and turned my back, holding out my hands. I was shocked when they handcuffed me. "What's this about?" "We got a call from 911. Your wife is scared," he said. "We need to take you outside for some cooling off and to talk to each of you separately." They led me to the door, leaving Marie alone at the table. "Wait! I need my phone!" I called out. "Where's your phone?" the female officer asked. "It's on the dining room table," I replied. She turned back to the dining room as the other officer guided me to sit on the porch. After a bit, she came back saying, "There's no phone. Your wife says she doesn't know what you're talking about." "Now we want to ask you a few things," the officer said. "First, can I get my handcuffs removed?" "Are you calm enough?" he asked. "Look, I left my cell phone on the dining room table. Today Marie told me she wants a divorce. We've never fought in 9 years. I recorded our talk and she got upset, telling me to turn it off. When she left, she must have called you. Now I'm being accused of being violent. If you can just get my phone, I can explain." "Stand and face me," the officer said. I complied, and he took one cuff off, securing it to the porch swing. "I'll find your phone," he said, and went inside. Minutes passed, maybe 15, while they searched for my phone but found nothing. "We called your phone and nobody picked up. Did you have the Find My Phone app on?" "Yes," I said sadly. "We found your phone at a house across town. Your wife says you were there last night." I felt a mix of worry and realization. Maybe she misplaced her phone. They had my old phone, which meant I would have to reveal that I knew about the divorce. "Sir, are you admitting your phone doesn't exist?" "No, I can't explain it yet. The phone was there. We were just talking." "Your phone was ringing at a different location. Can you explain why?" "I can't tell you right now." "Then we'll assume your phone isn't here. Your story is false. My story is true. I'm not changing it." "Okay. How do you respond to claims you were violent to your wife?" "I deny that completely." "Where were you last night?" "I was with 2 lawyers for work." Can you explain what kind of work? I hesitated, feeling trapped in this situation. I'm sorry, but I can't discuss it. We'll check with the lawyers later. That works for me. Everything I have said or will say is the truth. I have nothing to hide. You said your cell phone was here, but it's not. You said you're in business, but you won't say what kind. Your honesty doesn't impress me much. Then his partner came into the room. He looked to see if I was free from my handcuffs and stepped inside. He didn't stay long. We are taking you downtown to check in. Can I ask what you are being charged with? Domestic trouble, an assault. He read my rights to me. They took me to a building, took my fingerprints, my picture, and put me in a cell. They let me call Ben and Nancy, but they didn't answer. I left a message and was told that was my limit. I sat in a small cell for a day and a half. I was offered food 3 times, but only ate once. I didn't sleep much and was glad when I heard my name. I walked to the door and was taken to a smiling Sally. Have you been hurt in any way? No, I'm fine. Come with me. She looked serious. We walked quickly to the office. She hurried inside. The policeman looked at her and didn't seem happy. Don't you knock? She told him not to bother her because she is a woman. I am here to file some complaints and to let you know my client is suing the city for $3 million. I want both officers who arrested her suspended without pay. They are violent and a risk to the public. Miss Georgette, if I may, you can't do that. She turned to me and kindly asked me to sit down. She pulled out some papers and filled them out. A few times she asked for my signature. I signed. When we left, I started to ask what was happening. She raised her hand, telling me to be quiet and follow her. Many people say that hearing they need to talk helps them through tough times, but these people didn't care about me. Something had changed. It went from being a reluctant helper to an eager enemy. Back with my lawyer friends, I returned to my friend's place to share the whole story. I don't know if anyone else had a worse time than I did during my first meeting. She said we needed to talk, but other than making wild claims, she wouldn't say anything. If this was my new normal, I wasn't sure I could handle it. Bob, even if you don't see it, we caught a big break. Well, I said to Sally, upset, but Frank, if this is a win, I'm not ready to lose. Ed continued, you shouldn't have been arrested. I think one or both of the officers messed up. They made a big mistake. The whole thing looks bad for the sergeant. He called me about the missing phone. He got a warrant and found it. The phone was in a trash can and had been in coffee. Marie says you did it. We're lucky she didn't throw it away, Sally went on. It took them some time to get a warrant and the search didn't happen until this morning. Junior doesn't seem to be involved. If he was, they wouldn't have had time for a warrant. The phone would have been lost. Ed picked up the phone. This is just the start. I hate to say it, but now Junior will be involved too. We need to do several things to show that your arrest was wrong. The hardest part was showing your first recording to Judge Marin. I thought you said it was a bad idea to show that tape to the judge. Well, I don't remember exactly, but we told you it's not always clear-cut. Why is my idea to share the audio file a bad move while yours is good? We need to watch out for Marie. I thought she and Dickie were a good match. Not only is she vengeful, but she knows how to be that way well. Dickie is known as a charming guy, but she has become your greatest enemy. Do you know why tax time is always tough for us? I have work and clients who need help year-round, but during tax season, I do almost half of my billable hours. I work and sleep. That's it. I know I need to eat. I manage that while working. Bob, that's not how you should see it. Sally was close to my face. So you have a bad quarter each year. That's just an excuse to get bored, maybe even to stray. This woman acts like she hates you. Why? We agreed Marie would leave her job while our kids were young. Our 7-year-old Claire came fast. We had given up on having a second child, but then Bob Jr. came along. He's about 18 months old now. What Marie hoped would be 5 or 6 years at home now looks like 10 or 12. That worries her, Bob. There's more to it, and you know it. Marie has always been drawn to men like Dickie, who seem free and fun. She once told me that accountants are too serious and boring. I joked that in my job, being spontaneous might get me in trouble. I thought it was funny, but she didn't laugh. Then it was Ed's turn. Bob, that sounds like a wife looking for more. Did you warn her? Warn her? No, I guess I never thought about it. Marie is 6 years younger. We were an odd couple at the start. She wanted the right husband. I was doing well. But strange as it sounds, we found things in common. She was the dreamer, and I was the support. We worked well together, but with what's happening now, anyone might wonder. What do you mean? Sally asked. She says she wants the right house, the best schools, and everything perfect. She says she wants to work, but her degree doesn't help her much. She talks a lot, but I never see her take action. She always makes sure we go to the right parties and hang out with the right people. Going to the right parties and being with the right crowd isn't such a bad thing. It probably helps with business, too. Sally agreed. We both knew I was missing the big picture. For her, the right parties are the ones with Dickie and his friends. She has a way of chatting with all the guys. Ed seemed a bit unsure. Not exactly, but she's friendly and likes to organize things. I'm just sitting here thinking about it. We used to laugh about this together, but when I remember the New Year's Eve party, things weren't so simple. Dickie and his friends were using something. Not illegal, Sally told me. One of them had a woman's name, like Maggie. Sally giggled. Wow, you really know how to party. What about Molly? Don't think I'm going to be embarrassed. I know enough about drugs, or maybe not. I admit it. I really don't know much about them. I thought my life was calm and perfect, but maybe I didn't see everything Mary wanted me to. Ed looked serious. People who like to party can get hooked on painkillers and other legal stuff, but it's only safe if a doctor prescribes it. We need to dig deeper. If she's using anything, your kids are at risk. Sally made some notes. We're starting to see a clearer picture. Your wife is moving from being bored to seeking excitement. That's for sure. Changes in how she acts and poor judgment are signs she might be using something. That made me worry. I knew one thing for sure. Marie can be really mean. If Dickie has told her that I'm the enemy, then even if she's not thinking straight, she could take her anger out on me. I think that's what I felt the last time we met. Sally turned to Ed. Dickie? I think I know him. He gets his buddies to tell his targets that their partners are cheating. I don't know how he does it, but he does. Then he comes into their lives. He has a nice reputation. The ladies seem to really like him. But after a while, he gets bored. He leaves, and then the problems start. Ed looked at me. If you talk to her friends, see if they think she has a reason to be mad at you. Right now, it's not a small problem. We've got Junior involved, which means war. Sally laughed, shaking her head. This must be the first time spouses actually say they need to talk, but never do. And yet it all goes wrong. I'm confused. None of you told me why you showed that tape to the judge. Maurice claims you are being abusive. You're cheating. You're a danger to the kids. There was no phone in your house for a while, and that supported her claims. We decided it was best to show the tape to prove you're the victim. It wasn't easy, but we managed it. Why? Was it a hard moment? Ed explained that judges are often friends with Junior. He found out his son was with someone new, which made him worried. Junior knows that Dickie could ruin everything. He will do anything to protect his interests. Let Dickie have his fun. He'll leave Marie, and then Junior will destroy her and wait for Dickie's next affair. It's tough because being the good guy will make the fight start sooner than we're ready for. Luckily, we have a strong case against the city. They will give you a lot of money, but you might need more than that to deal with Junior's anger. Junior's anger? It was Monday, a new week, a chance for a fresh start. I was staying with my friends and lawyers, Ed and Sally. Their house has a guest area. A door in their living space leads to a small office. This small room connects to a hallway. From there, you can leave the house and go to a big bedroom or a large bathroom. The bedroom is spacious and has a small kitchen area with a coffee maker, microwave, and fridge. I can stay in this space without going over to the main house. I learned that I would need to stay in touch with them often. I got to work at 5 minutes to 9. At exactly 9, someone from the law firm representing Junior came to the door with big envelopes. He asked me to sign them. One moment. I pressed a button on the speed dial and Ed answered. Ed, we have someone at the door with lots of envelopes. He wants me to sign for each one, Ed said, putting me on speakerphone. My name is Ed Dover. I'm Mr. Watson's lawyer. Please tell me your name. Just call me Ralph, the server said. Ralph, my client doesn't know enough to sign these papers. Our law system has rules for serving legal papers. You have your duties, which I trust you know about. My client has no duties because he isn't in any lawsuit right now. If you want to serve him, do it. He isn't part of this case. I'm told to get signatures. Ralph, serve my client and leave, or simply go away. My client is standing right here. It's up to you. The server made a smug expression. "I see you are refusing to get your client's signature. I'm leaving." "Thank you, Ralph. Have a nice day." Ralph turned and walked off. Once he was far enough so he couldn't hear me, I told Ed. "He didn't leave any papers." Ed said, "Bob, I've been to more trials than I can count, and I've never seen this. Did you see the list? What did it say?" "I saw it. One item, probably the third one, said complaint. The first two were something about notices. I can't remember. There were questions and more than one, if I got that right." "What are they doing?" Ed explained that a trial has a clear path. They first file a complaint. This complaint explains the reason for the case and its basis. We respond to the complaint by either agreeing or disagreeing with what they said. If we need more information to defend ourselves, we ask for an investigation. The judge agrees to this. After that, motions and documents like interrogatories are filed. Things seem out of control. I think of Dickie. Near the end of the day, I called Ed again. Another person came with a single paper and waited outside my office. When I invited him in, he asked if I was Bob Watson. I said yes. He gave me an envelope and said, "You have been served," then walked away. I told Bob, "That's how it should be." I called Ron Howe to ask him to add me to your list of attorneys. He asked for a letter to confirm, which I sent by courier. Yet they still served you. I don't want to say it, but you are in a tough spot. My wife is upset with me. Her partner is after me, and his powerful dad is right behind him, causing trouble. What's the issue, Bob? This morning was a real joke. There wasn't a single clerk available, let alone a lawyer. A document server wouldn't have acted like that either. No, it was Dickie being his usual stubborn self. I see two reasons for this. First, Dickie might be trying to show his dad he knows what he's doing. You might wonder why someone would make such a big mistake to impress their dad. Well, that's just Dickie. He always messes things up. The second reason, which I think is more likely, is that Junior heard about the judge and the tape. Junior asked Dickie what was happening. Dickie said he wanted help from Dad. Dad said no. So Dickie messed up on purpose to get his dad involved. It's bad enough that my wife feels like a stranger now. I reached out to my friends who know about these things. They said this is a pattern and that chaos follows afterwards. I was confused and asked why Dickie needed Junior's help. I don't know. Junior's job is to bring back order. He threatens and bothers Dickie, then comes to the rescue. None of them want Junior involved unless it's different from what usually happens. Different? How so? Honestly, I don't know. Maybe it's drugs or maybe it's something else. I really hope this public mess isn't Dickie's way of getting his dad involved. Suddenly, I was alarmed. If Junior isn't going to fix things and is instead trying to help Marie, that's serious. Very serious. I can't say how serious, Bob, but if Dickie is on your side, that could help you. You've heard stories about a husband and an ex-Marine who were treated unfairly. After that, there is often a strong revenge. The husband ends up okay while all the bad people fall away. I'm not a Marine, I'm just an accountant. I could have refused to do their taxes, but I didn't. Things looked worse. We need to talk. I got a text from Marie saying we needed to talk. A part of me wanted to ignore it. Whatever she needed to tell me didn't seem urgent, so I replied, "Sure, where and when?" But her reply made me angry. "This has gone too far. My lawyer says we can't talk without her present." I said, "Then we can't talk," and I was glad she said that. I forwarded everything to Sally. Maybe I'm slow, but I still trust my wife. I know I shouldn't, but I can't let go. I would say I still love her, but I overheard a conversation that made it clear she was not on my side. Why is that? Many people find themselves in my shoes, but they aren't top tax experts at big firms. They don't have resources or the best lawyers backing them. I need to get out of her house. No matter how it looks, they never helped me. I looked for a nice condo my firm could rent to good clients. When I do move out, I could write off my stay as a business expense. I found a good option quickly, but I soon learned I had no assets. They were all frozen. More work for Ed and Sally. Their jokes about bend over and enjoy were becoming less funny. Then I was surprised. The CEO of my firm, who I know but we aren't close, approached me. He said he heard I was getting a divorce and looking for a new place to live. He suggested that if I find something, he might get our board to buy an apartment and rent it to me for a while. I was shocked that everyone knew about my situation, but I wasn't going to turn it down. Soon, I had an apartment that cost almost nothing. Things seemed to be looking up. Then Ed called. We were about to meet with Marie and her lawyer. These days of good moments were short. My secrets were out. Ed and Sally joined me for that first meeting. We were still outnumbered. Marie sat in the center, surrounded by people I didn't know. It felt very formal, as if I was facing the Queen and her court. Marie looked at me and said, "I'm sorry for all these formalities. I was eager to talk to you." But she was interrupted by a gloomy woman who looked like she belonged at a funeral. Marie said, "Let me explain everything myself." She started talking about her outfit and the reason behind it. Despite her bad look, she was even worse than I expected. I sank lower in my chair, feeling defeated. I was trying to guess how she would act next and mentioned that she expected me to pay all the legal fees. The people in the room must have been charging at least $1,800 an hour together. That made it $30 a minute. I sat up straight, hoping she would get to the point quickly. "If you've never been to a trial, I really think you should try to go." The lawyer often uses complicated words that are hard for people like us to understand, especially when we are paying for all of this. I felt a bit excited when she said something unusual, referring to me. The words were strange, but I guessed it had something to do with my pants not being buttoned. "We have pictures. I can show you some today." The first picture showed a pretty young woman sitting alone at a table for two. I recognized her. It was Rebecca Carter, a client I had dinner with, but not in this restaurant and not as a couple. I had never had dinner alone with a client before. The next photo showed the two of us at the same table and she was looking at me. I wondered how they got that picture. The second photo seemed real. It didn't show the table, but we were in the same spots as in the first photo. Together, they made it look like we were having an intimate dinner. There were more photos, too. One showed us leaving the restaurant holding hands. Then in the elevator, we were close together and kissing. You couldn't always see my face, but my jacket was clearly tweed, definitely not casual. If my face was hidden, the clothes made it easy to tell it was me. I had to note that Miss Carter was a new client who wanted my advice and could only meet over dinner. She had planned this well. One picture showed our crying baby. I was reaching out to calm him. Of course, they claimed he was crying because I was hurting him. One picture alone didn't prove anything, but together they suggested something else. Next, we looked at our finances. As an accountant, I kept track of everything carefully. I had a big account in my name. It was meant for our retirement, college funds for the kids, and things like that. I wrote a detailed plan for how the account would be used and offered to set it up in both of our names. Marie and I went over this plan, and I left her a copy. She said she hadn't seen it. We took a break, and one of the ushers offered us a conference room for some privacy. Ed excitedly said, "You are so kind. You think of everything. We are very grateful to you. Can I see this?" As he and the usher left, Sally said Ed must think the room is being watched. When we sat down, he would ask you questions. They wouldn't be for us, but for them. Act like you don't know what to say. Don't lie. They know the pictures don't tell the whole story. If you say too much, they'll know you're lying. When we entered the room, Ed started talking angrily about me dating a woman. I stumbled over my words and told him things were not as they seemed. He didn't want to hear it. He asked how I thought they could defend me while he was shouting. He checked his watch, calmed down, and said it was time to go back to the group. On the way back, I told Sally I was trying to be careful. Then Ed went and did it. "Did what?" she asked, curious. He got emotional, then looked at his watch and calmed down, and we walked back together. "Oh, Bob, you're new to this. His emotions are part of the show. They know the whole world is a stage. Remember Shakespeare? He played his part and you played yours, but he just turned his feelings off." I still didn't quite get it. We walked back to watch the other side. Ed couldn't be red-faced and out of breath when we returned. In this process, we had to behave, but they didn't. Don't try to figure out why we do things. You'll drive yourself crazy. After that, the meeting was quick. Ed asked a few basic questions, and then Sally started her speech. It was the biggest lie she had ever seen. There was no point in talking to them. They weren't honest. I saw that Sally was looking right at her opponent, the main lawyer, and Ed watched Marie without any emotion. They were quite a team. Marie said she'd had enough of all this, and of them. So we left. Later, Marie said we needed to talk, but we didn't. The three of us had a meeting in their offices. It seemed clear that Marie was the key point. She was distant and hardly joined in the talk. Ed started, "I've known her since you've been dating." She smiled at me briefly like you do at strangers on the street, and then didn't look at me again. Out of the 8 people on her side of the table, she showed the least interest and emotion. I noticed the way you looked at her when Sally started speaking at the end. What did you think? That was the worst part. I looked at you first, and it wasn't surprising that you were staring at her. So I kept watching to see how she reacted. She seemed uninterested, scanning the room. She looked at you, but just as much as she looked at me. Or Sally, really. Did you see her with Dickie? Only once. What were they like, Sally? I didn't really notice them. They were so close, but I was outside listening through the window. Same question. What were they saying? They were talking about being together. No, that's not right. They were together. Past tense? She asked me to leave her some money, but he said no, and she didn't seem to care. She wanted him to be there, but he thought it wasn't a good idea. He said that Junior had a problem with him, and with married women. I asked around, and no one had seen them in his usual spots. What's more, no one had seen him either. Ed was getting anxious. Oh, Ed, for goodness sake, just tell me what you think. Don't make him ask over and over. It looked like Dickie was in love. If that's true, it's different from what we thought. This wasn't a plan to get rid of her husband. This was about helping the woman Dickie wanted to marry. Sally looked as if she had won a big prize. Oh, you're right. She looked like a tired traveler on a boring flight. Nervous? She took some pills to stay calm. She stayed relaxed because she didn't have a real part in this, just going along until told to get off. For some reason, this made me sad. I can't help but feel down about it. I knew it was happening, but now it felt real. Ending things because she was unfaithful and I don't want her anymore is one thing, but learning that she's gone so far that I can't remember the past is really hard. You're more than a client to us. Get to your work. Sally turned to look me straight in the eye. We know you want to see your kids. We know you didn't do anything wrong, and we know Junior is a tough guy. Hard times are coming. You don't deserve that. But sadly, they're coming anyway. Back off. That felt cold, honey. Ed leaned forward. She's right, though. That client of yours, Carter, that was her name. When we questioned her, it would be a letdown. She'll say something almost true, but clever enough that we can't catch her in a lie. She'll call you almost. They'll put you down without saying anything clear. Sue jumped in. Ed, we need to be careful with Marie. She turned to me. Bob, will Marie lie about you? Will she say she fears for her safety and her kids' safety around you? I can only hope not. But she can be very spiteful. If Dickie has told her I'm being unfaithful, it won't matter if I'm telling the truth. Think about it. They tell her I was seen somewhere, but they have no proof. They took bad pictures just to make their point. They don't have to convince the court. They just need to convince her. If they succeed, she can turn her anger on me. Because I deserve it. Ed leaned back in his chair, looking worried. That's very bad news. If Dickie loves her and wants to marry her, Junior will want you out of the way. If she has second thoughts and wants to return to you, he'll make sure she has nothing to come back to. This is really bad news. I take it you think it's bad news. I tried to laugh, but it didn't work. What do I have to look forward to? It was Sally's turn to speak. Nothing but trouble. He may try to hurt you, your money, or your chance to enjoy your life. If you're worried about that and he thinks about it, he will take action. You'll protect me? Ed seemed solid. We'll do all we can. Hold on to that thought no matter what. He's going to mess it up. He won't be able to hold himself back. I don't know how or when, but believe me, he will. Will he? Then when I'm living in a shelter somewhere, I'll be glad because it's only a matter of time. Tough summer ahead. I live in a nice apartment, but without my home or my kids. I had visits every other Saturday. I can't say which of my kids was harder to leave behind. Claire was growing up and so lovely. She would soon be a young woman, and I missed that. Bobby could barely walk or talk when I left. I missed seeing him grow from a baby into a little kid. It was breaking my heart. I went to court 3 times to get shared custody. I thought Ed was doing well, but he was held back by his values. Marie's lawyer didn't have those same concerns. They said getting a quick end to the divorce was the key to fairness. They claimed it was a shame I wanted to take my time. But they said the kids shouldn't suffer because of my delays. Ed had to stand up and explain to the judge that I wasn't trying to delay the divorce, but just wanted a fair custody deal. Marie was saying I wasn't a good father, and it was her fault this was taking so long. Ed pointed out their ideas were flawed. Marie, without any proof, said I was a bad dad. I fought back against this claim. Marie, as the one starting the case, used her own words as proof and got an expert opinion based on her claim. Then they used that expert's opinion to support their case. It amazes me how lawyers can smile and twist the truth when they're caught lying. They don't say it's true. They just say it might not be a lie. They argued how could Ed or his client know what an expert was truly thinking. If all we have to say I'm unfit is Marie's word, that doesn't make it true. Ed said he'd like to question the expert to show our argument was right and theirs was wrong. The other lawyer agreed to allow the questioning and set it up for as soon as they could. They thought the soonest could be 2 weeks after the deadline. In the end, we showed that their expert opinion didn't have any real proof. It was a surprising moment. By that time, 2 other experts were involved. From what I understood, they based their opinions on the first expert's findings and said I was not a good father. Ed got upset and said it was the same issue but just dressed up differently. Her lawyer argued it was not the same. The first expert made his judgment based on complaints. It was different this time. Ed pointed out that this new expert's opinion relied on a past judgment that had been canceled. The judge was starting to get impatient. He said if the evidence showed Ed was right, he would rule for the other side. I sat there listening to them smile and reassure me that it wouldn't come to that. They promised to bring in both experts soon. I sat in the back thinking I was in a cheap seat, but nothing about this case was cheap. It was clear they were spending a lot on legal fees. In my opinion, they were quite good at it. Summer was nearly over. One expert suddenly took a 60-day trip and couldn't testify. Marie's lawyers, seeing trouble ahead, asked for a meeting with the judge. In that meeting, they claimed they had no idea about the planned vacation, which had been set for over a year. Now, they wanted everything decided at the divorce hearing scheduled for early October. Ed reminded the other lawyer and the judge that if they couldn't prove I was unfit, he would support shared custody. The judge agreed. He said starting September 12th, I would have custody every Wednesday until 8 p.m. and on weekends. By mid-September, we had a small victory. I was overjoyed. But then I sank into despair. They were unyielding. I felt as if my whole world had turned upside down in a day. I was learning new terms like depositions, interrogatories, and affidavits. I signed some documents but didn't fully understand what they were for. I chuckled at a note above my signature that said it wasn't confirmed by the person who signed it. I was just an accountant. I add numbers. My work is straightforward. There shouldn't be any confusion in accounting. I had another card to play. The police had arrested me for something that wasn't true, and Sally said the city would pay for it. This payment would help me handle the legal fees I faced. One morning, Sally called me at work 2 months into the investigation. The city was having money troubles. Someone rich agreed to buy some city bonds with one condition. He would be the only one making decisions about my false arrest case. Luckily, the city lawyer was quite young and got upset about this. I felt bad for her, but I realized this meant I might not get any money, or at least not for a long time. That was rough news. But there was some good news, too. She thought what was happening was close to corruption. She said it was a way for the city to get a lot of money while I had to do community service. Her job was to pass any settlement offers to another lawyer. She did some digging and learned the rich guy was blocking money to trap me. Although it was unofficial, we had a potential ally, which could be useful. I accepted, but I didn't want to think about payments just yet. I said that with as much sarcasm as I could muster. Life can change very quickly. On Friday, September 27th, there was a chill in the air, reminding me that winter was coming. I was shocked to learn our CEO called a meeting with his top 5 employees. To my surprise, he announced the firm was sold and I would no longer have a job. As I sat there, a tear fell from my eye in disbelief. I tried to speak, but he held up his hand, telling me to wait. He sent the others away. He reassured me that he would keep his position and that I would walk away with a good amount of money. And then he said, "You're leaving?" He told me that since I was no longer with the firm, I had to leave my apartment by the 30th. I was furious. I thought it was a very rude thing to say. He replied that he had the right to end my contract. I should have gathered everyone to share the news and told me to leave the apartment by Monday. It was done now. I felt helpless. I had no job, no settlement, no company car, and no home. I had fallen from a good life to nothing in one quick step. I tried to call Ed, but my phone service was cut off. What was going on? I had no job and nothing but time. I decided to walk to their office to talk to them. As I walked a few blocks, it started to rain. I was cold and desperate. When I reached Dover and Juliet's office, both were in a meeting, but I was told I wouldn't wait long. I was just changing when Sally asked me what was wrong. I told her everything. She said the other party was violent. I was worried there was more, but I couldn't think of what else could go wrong. They had cut off my cell phone service. The bill was in both our names. I didn't understand how they did this. I needed that phone to stay connected to home and to see my kids. Without it, I could lose everything. Sally found my phone and left. She was gone a while, almost an hour. When she returned, she told me to try calling. I pressed her number on my phone. It rang, and I felt ready to face things again. I won't lie, I cried a lot. The stress had really hit me hard. Then the relief came, and it was overwhelming. Sally sat down beside me and hugged me while I cried. "You're coming home with us tonight. We'll figure out what to do next," she said. I couldn't find the words to talk to them. I went to their spare room and stared at my phone. It was a little after 8 in the evening. We had put a camera in the room to watch our young son when we weren't there. He was sleeping. Then something must have scared him, or maybe he had a bad dream because he woke up and started to cry. At first it was soft, then it got louder, and finally he was screaming. It was his way of calling for his mom. I was surprised when I saw Dickie stumble into the room and shout at my boy. I rushed into the room and shouted to Ed and Sally, "Look at this!" By this time, Dickie was yelling, which only made my son cry louder. Dickie got even more angry. Ed jumped up and said, "Sally, call 911. They need to send help to that house right now." He turned to me. "Bob, we're heading to your house right now." Our homes were over 30 minutes apart. Ed asked me to call 911 in the car. I think he knew it wasn't really needed, but he wanted to keep me busy as he sped down the road. When we finally reached my house, there was already an ambulance, a fire truck, 4 police cars, and a crowd of onlookers. Ed told me to stay close and be quiet. It surprised me when he said this. He acted like he would take care of everything and keep me safe from trouble. He found the officer in charge and demanded to know what was happening. It took some time, but soon the officer shared what he knew. They had arrived at the house and knocked, but when no one answered, they forced the door open. Dickie was passed out, and Marie was on the bed. Now both were in handcuffs. I got home, lay on the bed fully dressed, and fell asleep right away. I woke up to the sound of someone ringing the doorbell and knocking. It was 10:05. Even sleeping until 10 didn't feel good. I laughed quietly to myself. When I opened the door, an older man looked back at me. He looked a bit wild, like a shaggy ferret. "Mr. Bob Watson, perhaps? If I could have a moment of your time, I believe I have some ideas that can help you get back on your feet." I stood in the doorway, blocking him from coming in. "What's your name?" I asked. "My name is John Cheatham. I'm a lawyer." I said to him, "John, I know you're not a good guy. This rough time I'm having was partly caused by you and your firm. I'd think you're feeling guilty, but you're a lawyer. Despite what's happened in the past, I believe we can help each other now," he said. "No way. You're a paid... I don't know how to say it, but it's like you do bad things for money. You're like a monster. One of your clients hurt my wife last night, just to make it clear." "That's not what I meant," he said. "Here's what's happening. Dickie is in big trouble and he might go to jail for drugs. His father has a plan to help him. If he wants me to consider this plan, he needs to meet with me in person. Just the two of us. Otherwise, he can forget it," I said. "That might be tough." "No problem," I said, and slammed the door in his face. He knocked right away, trying to start the talk again. I opened the door and glared at him with all the anger I had for his client and his law firm. I didn't say a thing. He had to look me in the eye. I shut the door again. He knocked again. "Thanks to your client, I had a rough sleep for barely an hour. I want him in jail and I want you there too. You have 10 seconds. Then I'm going back to bed. If I sleep, this whole mess will play out without my help." "Can I come in? I want to call someone and see if we can agree on something. I don't like you. I don't trust you. I'll let you in only so I can sit down. But if I want you to leave, you have to do it right away, or I'll call the police. Understood?" "Yes, sir. I will leave. Let me make that call." We walked to the living room and sat down. He took out his phone and made a call. "I'm with Mr. Watson. I haven't started talking to him yet. I'm here because Dickie is in trouble and his father wants to help him. The father wants to speak directly to me." He paused for a few moments, listening. "Uh-huh," he said, then listened again. Finally, he added, "Yes, sir. Hold on a moment." He looked at me while still holding the phone. "Mr. Watson, as you can see, the situation is sensitive. I can arrange a meeting, but it has to be quick and just the two of you. You need to promise you haven't reached out to anyone before this." I took a deep breath. "Okay, we're both here. Pick a place. Let's get in your car since mine is gone and let's go talk. It's not hard." "I'd rather we meet somewhere public," he replied. "But your client is someone who tends to make things vanish. I have nothing left but my life and I want to keep it." He raised a finger, asking me to wait, then brought the phone back to his ear. "Did you hear that?" Then he continued to repeat himself. Finally, after a moment, he looked at me again. "Do you know Falconwood Park, where two rivers meet? It's a nice place, not too far away. If that's where you want to go, I can be ready in 10 minutes. You woke me up. Let me use the bathroom and brush my teeth first. You can watch if you want. I'll be back in about 20 minutes. I'll try to be quick. Do you have a cell phone?" "Yes, I do. Not many people like it except for my young son. It's sitting on the nightstand and I hope it will be there when I return." "Sure, I guess." "What do you think of me?" "I don't plan on messing with your phone. Don't play innocent. I'll be right back." I didn't take my time, but I wasn't rushing either. I walked to the restroom just by the entrance. Mr. Cheatham could see I hadn't taken anything with me. I came out wearing the same clothes. I joined him and went to my phone. "I wish you hadn't done that." "Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. It's just a habit. Of course, we can leave it." We reached his car and drove to the park. I was surprised to see so many people there. It was the last Saturday in September. Cheatham called his son to find out where he was. We got directions and walked to a bench where Richard Newberg Jr. was sitting. Cheatham told me he would wait there, so I went to meet the man who had caused me so much trouble. He was exactly as I thought he would be. He waved me to sit down, but he didn't offer a handshake, so I didn't have to refuse. We sat in silence for a moment. "Mr. Watson, can I call you Bob?" he asked. "Call me whatever you want. Maybe we'll become best friends," I replied with a blank stare. I didn't think that was possible. "Bob, we have a real problem and I think we can help each other," he said, pausing for me to agree. I felt like a pigeon might land on me at any moment. "Your ex-wife isn't a nice person and her actions have caused problems for you and my son," he continued. Still, I waited for the pigeons. "Since these actions were your wife's, I thought we could make an arrangement so neither of you nor my son would be punished too harshly." I didn't care what he wanted to call my son. "Your son will be on trial Monday morning. If you don't get to the point, we're just going to sit here confused," I told him. I froze again. He crossed his legs and arms in frustration. "I don't think we need to talk about it," he said. I shook my head. "I agree. You're not saying anything useful." He seemed to lighten up a little. "In a couple of months, we will find out that your son has serious trouble in prison," he warned. I took that as a threat for my son. "Junior, stop. If you need something from me, just say it. Tell me what I need to do and what I get in return. I'll decide if it's worth it," I replied. He tried to act innocent, but it felt more like a wolf to me. He really didn't look innocent. "That's just it. My son wouldn't hurt anyone. This is all your wife's fault," he said. I was glad I had seen Sally and Ed during their talks. No matter how serious the topic, they sounded calm. After a short pause, he asked, "So what do you think?" "Is English your first language?" I asked. "Because I said, you tell me what to do and what I get for it, and I'll think about it." Suddenly, he seemed very interested in his feet. He mumbled something about not wanting to talk. "Junior, I know you don't want to say much," I urged. "We're done here. Your son will face real trouble from other prisoners. Is there anything else you have to say?" He sighed, clearly frustrated. "Okay, I see why you've done well. You're smart. But my son is a mess. He means no harm. He isn't clever enough." "Right. If he goes to a tough prison, he'll face what they call justice," I stated. "I need to prevent that. I'm sure you can think of a decent story that points to your wife. My son will get a lighter sentence if you help me. I can restore your old life and pay $1 million for your son's future. What do you say?" "Are you asking me to lie?" I questioned. "This was your idea. Your son hurt mine. And you want me to take all the risk?" He fidgeted a bit. "I'm in a tough spot. I can't seem to make this right. But you don't raise any suspicion. That's why we're just talking here. We become tied to each other. If either of us says something first, our own issues come to light, I replied, shaking my head. I know I'm going to regret this. I hate my wife, no doubt. Yet she seems to really care for our child. I'm worried if I make up anything, it might be as wrong as your son's actions. So where does that leave us? I asked. You call my old boss and tell him to take me back as a partner. He can keep control, but I will be a partner again. It will show good faith. On Monday morning, we will meet, and I'll come up with a story if you want to adjust the details. For the lie you want, you will give me 2 checks, one for $1 million for my son's trust, and one for $200,000 to me for my help. I think we can do that under normal circumstances, but I worry you might try to back out of it. I stepped closer. You came to me asking for money. It's just me and my wife who are the bad ones. You and your child are the ones hurt by this. I need something from you. At the exchange, I want to make sure you won't trick me again. I'm not sure what that looks like, but I need to feel that we both know what's going on. We are doing something wrong with your offer, and we have to keep this a secret. I'll figure things out on Monday. Let's meet at 11 o'clock at the Starbucks on 3rd Street. We can stand outside with coffee, take our time, do our stuff, and then leave. Sound good? I want a call from you by the end of Sunday to get my job back. This shows good faith. The rest may be a lie, but you'll need to pay for that lie, and also agree to keep quiet at 11 o'clock on Monday. Will Mr. Cheatham give me a ride home? Sure. Now here's what happened. I have to say, my story on Monday went really well. It was the best plan Sally and the city attorney and I could come up with in just over 10 hours. Junior was happy to hear it and gladly gave me the checks. He didn't look so happy when they arrested him. Before my busy Friday night, Sally made sure I had a microphone with me. It was hidden in my belt buckle. Cheatham recorded everything I said. He might lose his job for that. My talk with Junior was recorded too. There were 4 men from different law agencies nearby with special microphones. They were parked a block from my house, and knowing where we were meeting, they quickly got to the park while I was taking care of some things. The young city attorney was determined to stop Junior from buying bonds. She thought it was wrong and didn't like that he could bully the city because of his money. She felt it was a crime. In the end, she got 4 high-level officials fired and added more charges against Junior. I got my job back as a partner, owning 33% of the company. The owner kept 67% for his 2 kids so they could take over when he retired. He was really sorry about what happened. It turns out Junior gave him 2 choices: take a lot of money and accept a partner who wanted me fired, or they would go after his clients one by one, offering lower prices to win them over. Either way, both Junior and I would have lost our jobs. Even though he didn't want to hurt me, he wanted to keep eating. Oh, and this was also a crime added to Junior's list. Marie's life changed a lot over one weekend. She went from having custody of our child in our nice home to wearing a prison suit and sitting in a small cell. Suddenly, things were looking up again. The city judged I was wrongfully arrested. They sent me a check for over $1 million to pay for my lawyers and take care of my kids' future. I was debt-free, living in my home and rebuilding my life. The day of our divorce hearing came, and the interest of Marie's lawyers dropped a lot. One showed up just to make sure the firm wouldn't have more problems. The divorce went through. I got full custody of our child, while Marie faced serious jail time. As I left the courtroom with my first real smile in a while, I heard Marie say weakly, "Bob, we need to talk." My smile got bigger, and I hurried out, leaving her behind. Thanks for listening to One Infidelity Hit. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and drop us a like.